What's up guys? So today we are filming real estate again. This is part 2 of my 2-part series on how to film real estate, and we are going to use a different setup today. In my last video I used the red Gemini with a slider, and I understand that it's not the kit that everyone is going to use. Today we're going to use something a bit more standard. We've got the Sony A7SIII with a G Master 12-24, and for the gimbal the Ronin RS2. I'm just going to put that on the floor now and go through. I've got my checklist actually, because real estate video is fairly simple, but you have to think still about a few things. So what I like to do is I have a checklist, and I'm actually going to put that checklist in the description so you can use that for your own shoot. I'm going to go through it with you right now to show how I'm going to film that house. We've got this nicely renovated house. I've got the whole checklist here. The first thing you want to do is go through the pre-shoot checklist, and it's going to sound very simple, but like you don't want to show up on location and realize that you forgot the SD card, you know, or like that you don't have a battery that's fully charged and you are empty, and your client is waiting for you. The first thing is going to be battery. You want your battery fully charged and the spare, but you have to think, okay, you need the battery for the camera, the battery for the Ronin or the gimbal you have, and for the drones as well. So make sure you charge all of them. If you've got a microphone, eventually charge those as well. SD card, I like to have them formatted, and make sure you have one SD card in camera in the spare. For real estate, you don't film that much footage, 20 gigabytes at most. You want to make sure the lens is clean, and I can see a spot here. Oh, that's a bit better. So you can do that before the shoot. Try not to show up at the shoot with a dirty lens where you have to clean and not have your gear ready. And what I like to do as well is set up my full kit at home. So here I would set up this camera and have it ready and do a few tests at home. So I make sure I'm not forgetting any parts, you know, like you don't want to forget that base plate, for example. Make sure everything is balanced, auto-tune the gimbal, and you're ready to go. I have a video on balancing your gimbal. I'm going to link it. No, it's going to be left or right. Just here if you want to have some tips and tricks on how to balance your gimbal. And the last thing, don't forget your water bottle, because you want to stay hydrated. So I've got a water bottle as well in the bag, but that's pretty much all you need. So now let's go inside, and I'm going to talk to you about camera settings. So now we're going to talk camera settings, and one of the first things you want for filming real estate is that you don't need that super shallow depth of field. So I'm going to set up my camera f-stop from 5.6 to f8 depending on the light. The stabilization needs to be off, so I'm just going to turn off the stabilization on this camera, because otherwise it's going to fight with the gimbal and it's going to look very weird. So steady shot, we want to remove it, to take it down to off. It's done. We are going to white balance in every room. Again, I've done a video on white balance, it's going to be linked just right there. You want the gimbal to be locked on level, horizon level. So from this gimbal, you just click on this button and you've got a few options, and the one I use is the first one at the top, which means it's going to keep the horizon always straight. And you want to reset the horizon in every room, but basically now if I tilt the camera, the gimbal forward and back, it's not going to change my horizon, and always keep it. Very important. You want your exposure to be set on the main wall of the room, so make sure you don't get tricked like a room like this one where it's very bright outside. If you set your exposure on the outside, the inside is going to appear very dark. Another thing I'm going to do right now is set my focus to manual. I don't want the camera to autofocus on anything, because it's going to catch maybe on the light or anything that will be in the foreground, and it's going to give you a blurry shot. Ideally, you want the shutter speed to be at 180 degrees. Here, for distance, I'm not using any ND filter. For inside, it's not a big deal. I'm shooting s.3 and the exposure is usually pretty good. However, for outside, it means I'm going to have to increase my shutter speed to compensate with that brightness. It's not a big deal. We're not filming an Hollywood movie. If you want to use an ND filter, that's fine. Just keep in mind, inside you probably have to take it off, and that's adding an extra step. Now, before you even pick up the camera and do anything, you're going to do a tour of the house, and that's something I already did with my friend Mark, and we turned on all the lights and all the features and cleaned up the house. We are very lucky. This house is amazing. Everything was staged. Everything looks perfect. So we didn't have to do too much except just switching on a few lights and cleaning a few leaves by the pool. But just keep in mind that's going to make your video even better. I think that's it. Now let's get to the filming and we'll go back to the front, or actually the back of the house. When it comes to gimbal moves and filming real estate, I always try to keep it as simple as possible. You don't need to go super complex and try to do some super fancy moves. Very simple pushing shots. Most of the time straight on, so we're in front of the house. I'm going to show you right now. We do the first shot like straight on. I'm at f9, a simple pushing. I'm going to go to each corner and try to see if I can get a better angle. And repeat. Recording. 1, 2, 3. Another move we can do here is eventually for this one a nice parallax effect. So I'm going to walk sideways and try to keep the center of my framing in the center of the house and pushing. When you first visit the house, maybe like talk to someone who knows the house. Mark knows very well the house. That branded oven looks pretty nice, and that's something I could have skipped.
This is another one. People are huge on tapware at the moment as well.
So that's something special, that'd be cool. And
but you know what I mean? Like there's someone that pays, they pay a lot of marketing to the company.
Sometimes I do experiment on the shot, like I just did down the staircase, where like I would do like a pan up, or even on that spiral staircase where I would try to spin the camera. However, most of the shots are, like I said, very simple, just a push in, either straight on, like for example with this room, like with the 12mm I can capture the whole room. I'm just going to do a push in and get that nice symmetry here. And eventually go to each corner of the room and see, try to do a push in, get the shot. If it works, it works. At least you go back with one shot from every angle of the room, and then you can pick whichever is the best. It's only like 3 shots per room. It's fairly easy to cut after and to do that very quickly at the editing. So for this room, I'm just going to open the windows. It's going to give that sense of spaciousness. And Mark showed me a little surprise. So if you don't know, like you just think that's the normal cupboard, like just a TV, and like. But you can open pretty much everything. So we've got this one here. And here, we've got the secret bathroom, which is actually the ensuite bathroom. Again, just make sure you talk to either the owner or the builder in this case, and get those little gems.
French for gems.
Gem. Try.
Oh, my finger.
Head down. And action.
Is that even? No.
And close it.
You know what's easier, bro?
I think that's easier to
close it, yeah.
For all these moves, all I do every time I move in a room, I'm going to double tap on the trigger here to just reset the gimbal, make sure it's all straight, because it's going to trend to drift over time. And the other thing too I'm doing, once I'm set up for the shot and I'm ready to go, I'm going to push the trigger and hold it, which is going to lock the camera in space. So it's not going to spin and turn left or right when I don't want it. Here we are done with the house. I've taken a shot of every room. Now we're going to fly the drone before it gets too dark. So now it's drone time. The sun is still out. It's a bit lower. I prefer filming drones a bit later in the afternoon or earlier in the day, for the simple reasons that the sun casts the shadows on the house and gives that 3D effect and gives much more dimension to the picture. At the same time, the light is a bit softer, which means the rooftops, for example, or the fences, everything that is white and reflective won't be as bright and won't be as distracting if shot when the sun is a bit lower. First thing I do actually when I start my drone and connect my phone is to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because there is nothing worse than receiving notification when you're up in the air and having your screen blacking out. Find a safe spot to take off, no trees above me. Always check with your local regulations if you're allowed to fly a drone. Here we are in a fly zone, we are all good. We are taking off from a private property and we'll make sure we stay 30 meters from the people. If you're flying a drone in Australia for commercial reasons, just make sure you register your drone with CASA. It's free, it's fairly easy to do, but just make sure to do that, otherwise you can get fined. I'm flying the Mavic Air 2 and I like to shoot at 4K at 60 frames per second. However, when I got close to the house with all the lights on, I realized that it was flickering. So I've switched back my drone to 25 frames per second when I'm filming close-ups of the house where you can see the lights, and as soon as I'm getting back up in the air and getting wider shots, I go back to 60. I'm going to use the spotlight. So for this you have to go back to 25 frames per second or 24, and because you can't use it at 60, you select something on your screen. So here we are going to do spotlight. Press record, make sure I'm properly exposed. What I can do is pretty much I can move anywhere in space I want, and the camera will keep pointing at the house, which is exactly what we want. In order to save time and not having to land and take off again, change the filters. I'm not using any ND filter on this one because I'm changing a lot and playing a lot with the frame rate. So I'm just playing with the shutter speed. So keep it minimal, keep it simple. Just focus on getting great, nice, smooth shot and capture all the features. That's all you want.